The gavel crashed like thunder, and Patricia Hensley, the HOA tyrant, lunged across the table, shrieking that I was a con man while a sheriff's deputy stood beside me, eviction notices in hand. That's right. May a rancher who owned a 150-acre spread legally ousting an entire HOA from their own homes. How did a guy like me pull it off? Let's roll back to where it all began. Dawn painted the hills of my family's ranch in fiery gold as I checked the cattle's water lines. Dust clung to my boots and the air smelled of sage and stubborn earth. My name's Caleb Turner, and this Land Freedom Plains ranch has been ours for over a century, carved out by my great-grandfather with grit and a rifle. That morning, old Pete from the post office rattled up in his beat-up truck, waving an envelope like it was cursed. I took it, expecting tax forms or election spam. Politics never interested me. The land was my world, governed by rain and hard seasons, not ballots. Pete lingered, fidgeting, then tipped his hat and peeled out. Standing in the sun's glare, I tore open the letter. What I read hit like a gut punch. Legal gibberish about foreclosure, unpaid HOA fees, and a court-ordered auction. My Ranch Me legacy had been seized by the Crestwood Homeowners Association and sold to developers for chump change. My pulse roared. This was no mistake. I'd never joined an HOA. My land predated Crestwood's cookie-cutter suburb by decades. Feast. I'd never heard of them. Rage boiling. I left the cattle and roared into town, tires spitting gravel. At the county records office, I slapped the letter on the counter before a nervous clerk named Eddie. "This is a lie," I growled. He tapped away, then turned his monitor. There it was. My ranch annexed 6 months ago by Crestwood HOA, labeled part of their community improvement district. They'd sent fee notices to a fake address, slapped a lien when I didn't pay, and auctioned my land to their cronies without a whisper to me. My fists clenched as Eddie printed the files. The annexation petition signatures were forged sloppy identical scrolls. The approving county commissioner, Patricia Hensley's brother-in-law, Patricia, Crestwood's HOA queen, had once tried finding me for my unsightly wooden fences visible from the highway. This wasn't a clerical error. It was theft orchestrated by Patricia and her cabal. They coveted my land for golf courses and gated estates, and when I wouldn't sell, they stole it. The records showed Patricia bought 3 parcels by my creek. Her VP, Greg Larson, grabbed the northern hills. Even the HOA treasurer snagged a slice where my grandfather's cattle pens rusted. They butchered my heritage, laughing over their deal. Driving home, fury blurred the landscape. The ranch house stood defined against the sunset, its porch swing creaking like a battle cry. I sat on my truck's tailgate, the letter crumpled in my fist, vowing to reclaim every inch. This was war, and Patricia had no idea who she'd crossed. By sunrise, I'd called my family's lawyer, Amos Reed, a grizzled veteran who thrived on dirty fights. "Sounds like they stepped in it," he raised. In his office, we pored over dusty deeds. BHO's annexation was a sham forged signatures, fake notices, and obscure newsletters, and surveys citing outdated trails. Then Amos's partner, Laya, uncovered a gem, a 1912 covenant my great-grandfather filed, barring land subdivision without family consent. A reversionary clause meant any unauthorized split reverted ownership to us. Most of Crestwood's houses sat on illegally divided land, their deeds voidable. I could own their entire neighborhood. Amos grinned. "There's squatters on your ranch." Laya showed a map. 80% of Crestwood's homes were mined by law. Patricia's mansion, Greg's garage, the HOA clubhouse, all built on sand. I saw Patricia's smug face crumbling. Amos warned, "They'll fight dirty lawsuits. Sob stories, maybe worse. You ready?" I met his gaze. Born ready. We moved like coyotes. Quiet and lethal, Amos filed notices to lock down titles while Laya mapped every parcel's flaws. I played the broken rancher, smiling at town events while wanting to throttle Patricia. She thought I was beaten, a dumb cowboy out of his depth. Meanwhile, I set up shell companies Horizon Holdings, Sagebrush Ventures, Redstone Properties using Amos's contacts as straw buyers. Nobody linked them to me. Over a year, we bought foreclosed Crestwood homes, starting with a rundown place fined into ruined by Patricia's fees. Sagebrush Ventures snapped it up. Cash, no questions. Patricia gushed about new investors at HOA meetings, clueless that I was sipping coffee 2 feet away, plotting her downfall. We kept buying defaults, relocations, downsizes. My companies maintained the properties, blending in, renting to HOA haters, or leaving houses empty but pristine. By 18 months, we owned a third of Crestwood, shifting voting power. Patricia, drunk on control, fine lemonade stands and banned tacky decorations, blind to my grip tightening. I studied their bylaws, their shaky finances, their overborrowed reserves. 2 years in, my companies held 64% of Crestwood as supermajority to rewrite rules or dissolve the HOA. Patricia planned a park on my covenant-protected land, digging her own grave. I celebrated on my highest ridge, watching the sun sink, knowing the land would outlast her. The day I struck, storm clouds loomed, the air electric. I strode into Crestwood's community center, boots echoing, a leather folder heavy with history. Patricia sat at the head of the boardroom table, a vulture in diamonds. "You can't barge in," she snapped, but her voice wavered as I dropped my documents with a thud. "According to your bylaws," I said, flipping to the special meeting clause, "a member with over 50% of the vote can call a meeting." That's me. I slid over signatures from my LLC chair new neighbors. Her face pad for an hour. I dismantled their empire. I presented the 1912 covenant, proving Crestwood's land was never legally split. Surveys and title records exposed their fraud. Forged signatures, fake notices, and her brother-in-law's rubber stamps sealed their guilt. I named each board member, suing them personally for fraud, conspiracy, and theft. Patricia's bluster threats of countersuits cracked under the weight of evidence. When I revealed the judge's injunction halting HOA actions, her jaw clamped shut. The room was silent, rain tapping the windows. "The HOA is suspended," I said. "Any move you make is contempt of court." Greg grabbed her arm, silencing her. They knew it was over. The court battle slogged on 6 months, my lawyers bearing them in subpoenas. We uncovered funneled fees, fake contracts, and conflicts galore. Patricia's sob stories, news interviews, crowdfunding flopped against our evidence. Her brother-in-law's confession of rubber stamping the annexation was the final blow. The judge's 23-page ruling obliterated the HOA, voiding their liens, fines, and foreclosures, and hitting Patricia and the board with millions in personal damages. Their homes, accounts, and egos were seized. Patricia's mansion sold at auction. Greg faced contempt for hiding assets, and the treasurer moved in with her parents. I took the clubhouse, parks, everything down to their manicured lawns. On eviction day, it was quiet but brutal. Notices informed board members their titles were void. They were my tenants, owing steep rent. They left humiliated, dragging bags of designer junk. Patricia clung to her house, pleading to the press, but the sheriff didn't flinch. Her pearls, Mercedes, and gym gear were auctioned to pay damages. I bulldozed the HOA office, replacing it with a dog park named Turner's Run for my great-grandfather. Neighbors real one cheered as kids and dogs romped. Months later, Crestwood bloomed without the HOA. Homeowners painted wild colors, built tree houses, and flew flags. I restored the ranch fences, pastures, wells savoring coffee on my porch, watching sunsets over land that was mined by blood and battle. On the ruling's anniversary, I torched the old HOA's signs, letters, painting, "Welcome to Freedom Plains." No HOA allowed on the Sherrardwood. I planted it by the road, the sky blazing like victory. The land remembered, and so did I. Patricia thought she'd crushed a rancher. She'd awakened to reckoning.